container. Okay. Next, uh, finding container images, finding and running container images, creating లేదు. Okay. Creating the image is also very important, but we'll not cover it in this class. But when we do Docker, we will do it. Okay. Next, advanced container management. Advanced container management. Next ఏంటంటే persistent storage to containers. Next, port mapping. Port mapping in the managing containers as a services is not required, but for Red Hat certification sakes, we will complete that also. Okay, managing containers as services. Okay. సో ఫస్ట్ ఒక చిన్న పని చేయగలుగుతాను నేను. ఐ విల్ బి స్టార్టింగ్ ఇక్కడ access.redhat.comకి వెళ్ళి ఈ పోర్టల్లో నువ్వు రిజిస్టర్ కాగలుగుతావా? కెన్ యూ ప్లీజ్ రిజిస్టర్ యూ? ఐ విల్ సెండ్ యూ ద యూఆర్ఎల్. ఓకే, లాగిన్ అనే బదులు ఓకే ఈ రెడ్ హ్యాట్ దీనికి, ఎందుకంటే ఆ కంటైనర్ రిజిస్ట్రీ కావడానికి ఇట్ ఈస్ దిస్ వన్ లాగిన్. సో లాగిన్ ఇంటు యువర్ అకౌంట్ అనేసి ఇక్కడ ఉంటుంది. ఓకే, ఆర్ రిజిస్టర్ ఫర్ ఎ రెడ్ హ్యాట్ అకౌంట్ అనేది ఈడ ఉంటుంది. ఓకే, రిజిస్టర్ ఫర్ ఎ రెడ్ హ్యాట్ అకౌంట్. Yeah, just register yourselves because you need to access their Docker registry, and that is also part of the training. నార్మల్గా ఏడబ్ల్యూఎస్లోనేమో వాళ్ళ ఓన్ డాకర్ రిజిస్ట్రీ ఉంటుంది, విచ్ ఈస్ ది ఈసీఆర్. ఓకే, విచ్ ఈస్ ది ఈసీఆర్. అర్థమైంది కదా? ఓకే, సో ఇది రెడ్ హ్యాట్ వి మేక్ ఓపెన్ సోర్స్ అనేది వీ విల్ బి ఏబుల్ టు గెట్ ఇన్ టు దిస్ వన్. ఓకే, క్లియరా? ఆల్ రైట్. సో నెక్స్ట్, సో నువ్వు అది రిజిస్టర్గా నేను నీకు ఐ విల్ బి ఏబుల్ టు గెట్ ఇట్. ఓకే, yeah. ఓకే, 60 లాగిన్ అయిపోయినా? అదే వచ్చేసిందా? ఓకే, ఏంది ఇది కోడ్ 708824. ఓకే, సో ఫస్ట్ వర్చువలైజేషన్ ఇంకా కంటైనర్స్ లో డిఫరెన్స్ ఏంటి అంటే వర్చువలైజేషన్ మనం when we create the virtual machine we are using main thing ఏంటంటే it requires a new operating system and it will run on the same hardware platform. Okay. అది కాకుండా it will create all virtual devices. For example, it will create a virtual network, it will create a virtual memory, virtual CPU, all of them, it will create new virtual hardware devices. దాని తర్వాత complete operating system should be run required to support the entire application. Okay, first different operating systems and new virtual hardware is created by using the virtualization. Containers ఏంటి అంటే they will use the same operating system కానీ Linux operating system is very smart. Okay, so that is why what it does is Linux operating system will be able to create Linux operating system lopata what happens is it can isolate different process. Okay, we will see about all those things when we actually get into the engineering details. Okay, but the main thing is if there are 3 or 4 processes it will have its own namespace. That means if any users are there in its namespace it will not know that the process running inside it is actually doing this one. Okay, and it will be sharing the same hardware resources and the OS resources. Hardware resources AVV, CPU, memory, and other things. Okay. Next, same ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే OS operating system కొత్తది అవుతుందా containers లో? No, containers will have the same kernel. Next, fewer resources than virtual machine, which makes them quick to start and stop and reduce storage requirements. Okay, so that is the main thing. Okay, container, how is all this possible? Unix has something called as C groups. That is why RHSCA is not complete. LFCS la they teach you about C groups. C groups means control groups. What it will do is it will provide you namespaces for process isolation. దాని తర్వాత SE Linux ఇంకోటేమో app armor are the two things in the security, but we will do SE Linux because we are on the Red Hat systems. Okay, right. So that is the main thing. So very important thing enti ante you need to understand a concept of control groups and namespaces. Control groups ఏం చేస్తాయంటే resource management. For example, you can put a limit on how much a process can use the CPU time. You can put a limit on how much process can consume a memory. Using that, you can stop the process from being very wide. That is called as the control groups. Next వచ్చేసి name spaces. అంటే ఏంటి name spaces means that entire process will be completely isolated. You will know about it when you actually get into these things. Okay. Next, containers are basically but the containers themselves only run and ephemeral. Once their job is done they will be destroyed, but if you want to make them persistent you can make them persistent, but their job is basically to run these things. Containers are run from image. Okay, in order to run a container first you need something called as image. Okay, ఏమేమి ఉంటాయి దాని లోపట ఇమేజ్ లోపట బేసికలీ సిస్టమ్ లైబ్రరీస్, ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ రన్ టైమ్స్, programming libraries, configurations, static data files. Okay, files that include, okay, but once you put the container image, everything will be this thing. When we take up the Docker, we will go into more detail about the containers. Okay, కానీ ప్రస్తుతానికి ఏంటంటే they will have their system libraries, which means that it will have its own operating system. But it is not creating a new virtual hardware. It is running within the host's operating system. But a container can be derived from its own OS. So it's slightly confusing, but but when you see it, you will, that confusion, when you do the engineering part, it will be clear. Okay.
Yeah.
And static data files, right? Okay. సో మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే పాడ్మ్యాన్ స్కోపియో బిల్డా తోటి యూ కెన్ క్రియేట్ కంటైనర్ ఇమేజెస్ విచ్ వీఆర్ నాట్ గోయింగ్ టు కవర్. Podman and Scopio, we will do it to actually manage containers and container images, inspect, copy, delete, and signing key. We will use Scopio. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, దాని లోపట ఇక్కడ ఏముంది, the platforms must ensure provide essential service, must respond by increasing or decreasing. Kubernetes ఏం చేస్తుందంటే is a container management solution. Okay, what will it do? It will, ఒక container by accidentally it will get destroyed, it will automatically recreate it. Inkoti, like if there are 4 types of containers, one is an SQL container, one is the Apache container, one is the web service container. Those 3 containers can interact with each other using the container, using this one. Okay, so that is simply called as the that is simply for the Kubernetes container, right? Okay, so that is what the Kubernetes does. Okay, now what we will do is we'll first do some these things. So first thing is you need to install Podman. Okay, so daniki enti ante, previously I taught you about yum command, but we were only dealing with packages. But from RHEL 8 onwards, they introduced the concept of what is called as a module. Okay, they introduced the concept of the module. Okay, what RHEL 8 has done is they have introduced the concept of the module.
Can I have one doubt?
Cheppu.
We have auto scaling groups, right? In EC2.
Auto scaling group, yes. Okay.
Is that managed by Kubernetes? Like Kubernetes?
No, auto scaling group is not managed by Kubernetes. No, because Kubernetes will only manage the containers. Kani, if you launch the containers on the auto scaling group, then you can use Kubernetes to manage that containers. Okay, that is the main thing. Anyway, let me start up a RHEL machine 8. Okay. So basically first thing enti ante, what we will do is guided exercises ichchadu, container, podman pull, podman run IT. So what we are now going to do is basically running a basic container. Okay, so first of all ఏమేం చేయాలి మనకి, we will have to install container tools and we will have to log into the registry. Okay, వీడేమో ల్యాబ్ రిజిస్ట్రీ ఇచ్చాడు, బట్ వీఆర్ నాట్ గోయింగ్ టు ల్యాబ్ రిజిస్ట్రీ, వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు లాగిన్ ఇన్ టు ది registry of the Red Hat to get our container image. Okay.
Yeah.
So first we will pull the image, or we need not pull the image, we can run the image directly. Okay, and it is all completely from here on, it will be Linux concepts. Okay, I will again briefly touch those Linux concepts wherever it is required. It is required everywhere. Okay, so that is what we will do. Okay, so we will configure the AMI. AMI మనం ఏం చేస్తాము అంటే basically availability zone EU West 2B